The mining station on Kepler 442b was quiet that day. Captain Jinwoo Park walked through the empty halls of his ship, the Harmony. He had been patrolling this area of space for 6 months now. Nothing ever happened here. The miners dug their rocks, the traders came and went, and Jinwoo kept them all safe from pirates. But today was different. "Captain," called his communication officer, "we're getting something strange on the long-range scanner." Jinwoo hurried to the bridge. The officer, a young man named Taeho, looked worried. "It's a signal, sir, but it's not from any human colony." "Pirates?" Jinwoo asked. "No, sir. This is different. It's organized, like a real message, but the language is nothing I've heard before." Dr. So-young Kim looked up from her science station. She was the smartest person on the ship, and she knew more about alien life than anyone in this part of space. "Captain, may I listen to the signal?" Jinwoo nodded. "Put it on speakers." The bridge filled with strange sounds. They were musical but sad, like someone crying in a language made of wind and bells. The crew stood in silence as the alien voice continued for several minutes. "It's repeating," So-young said quietly. "The same message over and over. Captain, I think this is a distress call." "From who?" "I don't know yet. But whoever they are, they're in trouble. Big trouble." Jinwoo felt his stomach tighten. In all his years in space, he had never heard from real aliens. Humans had found empty planets and dead civilizations, but never living ones. "Can you understand what they're saying?" "Give me some time. I have programs that can help with translation." So-young worked at her computer for an hour while the rest of the crew waited. Finally, she looked up with wide eyes. "Captain, you need to hear this." She played the message again, but this time a computer voice spoke over the alien sounds. "Great warriors of Earth, legendary fighters of the void. We are the Althari Republic. Our worlds are dying. The devourers have come to our space. They eat everything. They take our planets and turn them into nothing." The bridge went silent. Jinwoo felt cold. The message continued. "We have fought them for 3 years. Our weapons do not work. Our shields do not stop them. 47 worlds are gone. Soon we will all be gone. We send this message to anyone who can travel between the stars. But most of all, we send it to the humans of Earth. Your people are known across the galaxy as the greatest warriors who ever lived." "That's impossible," Minho Lee said. He was Jinwoo's second in command and had been in the Earth Navy for 20 years. "We've never met aliens before. How do they know about us?" So-young was still working at her computer. "I'm finding more in their database. They've been watching our old TV signals and radio broadcasts. They've seen our movies about war. They've heard our military communications. Captain, they think we're some kind of super warriors because of all the fighting in human history." The alien message kept playing. "If you can hear this, please come to the Althari system. The coordinates are attached to this message. We will share all our knowledge with you. We will give you anything you want. Just please help us. The devourers will reach our home world in 6 months. After that, there will be nothing left of our people." Jinwoo sat down hard in his captain's chair. This was too big for him to handle alone. "So-young, how far is their system from here?" "About 8 light years. Sir, with our best ships it would take 3 months to get there. And these devourers they mentioned? From what I can understand, they're some kind of machine race. They don't negotiate. They don't take prisoners. They just consume everything and move on to the next target." Minho shook his head. "Sir, this could be a trap. What if these aliens are lying? What if they want to get us away from our colonies so they can attack them? Or," So-young said softly, "what if they're telling the truth? What if there really is a race out there that destroys entire civilizations? And what if we're the only ones who can stop them?" Jinwoo looked out at the stars through the bridge windows. His whole life, he had dreamed of meeting aliens. He had imagined first contact as a peaceful moment, with scientists and diplomats shaking hands and sharing knowledge. He had never imagined it would be a desperate plea for help against an enemy that ate worlds. "Sir," Taeho called from his station. "I'm picking up more signals, lots of them, all on the same frequency. More Althari messages? No, sir. These are different. Weaker signals. I think they're from the edge of Althari space. The signals are getting cut off one by one. So-young ran to her station and started analyzing the new signals. After a few minutes, she turned pale. Captain, these are death screams. Entire planets going silent. The Devourers aren't waiting 6 months to attack the Althari homeworld. They're moving faster than expected. Jinwoo made his decision. Send a message to Earth Command. Full priority. Tell them we have made first contact with an alien civilization. Tell them that civilization is about to be destroyed by something called the Devourers. Tell them the aliens are asking for our help. Sir, Minho said carefully, Earth Command will think we're crazy. Maybe. But send all the data with the message. Let them decide. Jinwoo stood up and walked to the front of the bridge and send a reply to the Althari. What should we tell them, sir? Jinwoo thought about all the human colonies spread across this part of space. Families living peaceful lives, children playing on new worlds, people building homes among the stars. What would happen to them if these Devourers decided to come this way? Tell them we received their message. Tell them we're going to help. And tell them they were right about one thing. Humans are very good at war. But we don't fight for glory or conquest. We fight to protect people who can't protect themselves. As Taiho sent the messages, So-young continued studying the alien data. Captain, there's something else. The Althari have been broadcasting this message for months. They've sent it to dozens of star systems. We're the only ones who answered. Maybe we're the only ones who received it. No, sir. I can see the signal paths. Other civilizations got the message, they just chose not to respond. She looked up at him with sad eyes. The Althari weren't wrong to call us. Everyone else in the galaxy heard a cry for help and turned away. Only the humans chose to listen. Jinwoo nodded slowly. It made sense in a way. Humans had always been fighters. They had fought each other for thousands of years before they reached the stars. Maybe that made them different from other species. Maybe that made them the only ones willing to fight someone else's war. How long until we hear back from Earth Command? He asked. At this distance, about 18 hours for a round-trip message. 18 hours to wait while alien worlds died in the darkness. Jinwoo had never felt so far from home. Keep monitoring all frequencies. If anything changes with the Althari situation, I want to know immediately. As the crew returned to their duties, Jinwoo stayed on the bridge watching the stars. Somewhere out there, an entire civilization was counting down its final days. They had reached across the void, past dozens of other species to ask the humans of Earth for help. The question now was simple. Would humanity answer the call? And if they did, would they be strong enough to stop an enemy that had already destroyed 47 worlds? Jinwoo had a feeling he was about to find out what humans were really capable of when pushed to their limits. Admiral Hyunwoo Choi read Captain Park's message for the third time. He was sitting in his office at Earth Defense Command, looking out at the blue Pacific Ocean below. In 30 years of military service, he had never received a report like this one. Admiral, his assistant called through the intercom. The President is on line 1. The Defense Council is ready for the emergency meeting. Hyunwoo picked up the phone. Madam President, Hyunwoo, tell me this is some kind of joke. President Na Young-jang's voice was tight with stress. Aliens asking for help? An enemy that eats planets? This sounds like a bad science fiction movie. Wish it was, Madam President. But Captain Park is one of our best officers, and the data he sent, it's real. We've had our best people checking it all night. How sure are we that this isn't a trap? We can't be completely sure. But the alien signals are coming from 8 light-years away. If they wanted to attack us, they would need to travel for years to reach Earth. And why would they pretend to be victims? If they were hostile, they would just attack our colonies directly. There was silence on the line for a moment. What are you recommending, Admiral? We need to respond, Madam President. If these Althari are real, and if this threat is real, then we might be looking at an enemy that could eventually reach human space. Better to fight them far away than wait for them to come here. And if it is a trap, Then we'll deal with that when we find it. But Madam President, there's something else. The aliens specifically asked for our help because they think we're warriors. What if they're right? What if humans really are different from other species? Different how? Hyunwoo looked at the wall of his office. It was covered with pictures from human military history. Battles on land, sea, air, and space. Thousands of years of warfare that had taught humanity hard lessons about fighting and survival. Maybe we're the only species that's good enough at war to stop something like this. President Jiang was quiet for a long time. Finally, she spoke. Call the meeting. Let's see what our military leaders think. 2 hours later, Hyunwoo stood in front of the Defense Council. The room held the most powerful military officers in human space. General Sun Ho Yang commanded the Earth Fleet. Admiral Mi Jung Choi ran the Colonial Defense Force. General Kyung-Soo Park was in charge of the Marine Corps. Ladies and gentlemen, Hyunwoo began, we have a situation unlike anything in human history. He played the alien message for the council. When it finished, the room was silent. General Yang spoke first. This is incredible. Real aliens, and they're asking us to fight a war for them. Not just any war, Admiral Choi said. A war against something that has destroyed 47 worlds. Whatever these devourers are, they're powerful. How powerful? General Park asked. Hyunwoo activated the holographic display. According to the Althari data, the devourers use some kind of biological technology. Their ships can adapt to enemy weapons. They consume entire planets and use the resources to build more ships. Sounds like locusts, General Yang muttered. But locusts in space. The Althari have been fighting them for 3 years. They have energy weapons and advanced shields, but nothing has worked. The devourers just adapt and keep coming. General Park leaned forward. What makes the aliens think we can do better? They've been studying our history through old TV and radio signals. They know about human wars. They think we're naturally better at fighting than other species, are we? Admiral Choi asked. Hyunwoo smiled grimly. Think about it. We've been fighting wars for our entire history. We've developed strategies and tactics over thousands of years. Most alien species probably achieved peace before they reached the stars. We reached the stars while still fighting each other. So we're the violent species, General Yang said. We're the experienced species. There's a difference. President Jiang's voice came through the speakers. Gentlemen, I'm listening from my office. What's your recommendation? General Yang stood up. Madam President, if this is real, we need to respond with force. Not just a few ships, but a real fleet. Something big enough to make a difference. How big? Every ship we can spare from colonial defense. 800 ships, maybe more. The room went quiet. That was the largest military force humanity had ever assembled. That would leave our colonies almost defenseless, Admiral Choi pointed out. Only if we lose, General Yang replied. If we win, we'll have eliminated a threat before it reaches human space. If we lose, well, it won't matter what ships we left behind. President Jiang's voice was thoughtful. What about our secret weapons? The railguns? Hyunwoo nodded. That might be our advantage. The Althari use energy weapons, lasers, plasma, particle beams. The Devourers have learned to defend against those, but they've probably never seen kinetic weapons. Railguns fire solid metal at incredible speeds, General Park explained. No energy to absorb or deflect, just raw physical impact. Like throwing rocks, but at 12% the speed of light, General Yang added with a smile. Chief Engineer Jisoo Kang had been quiet during the meeting. Now she spoke up. We've been working on railgun technology for 20 years, but we've never tested it in real combat. This would be quite a test. Can we build enough railgun ships in time? President Jiang asked. We don't need to build new ships. We can retrofit existing vessels. Add railgun turrets to our cruisers and destroyers. It'll take 2 months, but we can do it. Hyunwoo looked around the room. So we're all in agreement? We respond to the alien distress call with the largest military force in human history? I have one concern, Admiral Choi said. What if we get there and find out we're not as good at fighting as we think? What if these devourers are stronger than anything we've faced? General Park smiled coldly. Then we'll learn. Humans are good at adapting too. We've been doing it for a long time. President Jiang's voice came through the speakers again. I'm authorizing the mission. General Yang, you'll command the fleet. Admiral Choi, prepare the colonial defenses for minimal coverage. General Park, get your Marines ready for boarding actions. Chief Kang, start retrofitting those ships immediately. Yes, Madam President, they said together. And gentlemen, the entire human race is counting on you. Don't let us down. As the meeting ended, Hyunwoo stayed behind with General Yang. Sunho, are you sure about this? 800 ships is everything we have. Yang looked at the star chart on the wall. Hyunwoo, I've been thinking about what the aliens said. They called us legendary warriors. What if they're right? What if humanity really is special? Special how? Every other species reached the stars through cooperation and peace. We reached them through competition and conflict. We've been preparing for this kind of fight our whole history without even knowing it. You think we can win? Yang smiled. I think we're about to find out what humans are really capable of, and I think the galaxy is going to be very surprised. Over the next week, the largest military mobilization in human history began. Ships were pulled from patrol duties across the colonies. Weapons were loaded. Marines said goodbye to their families. Engineers worked around the clock installing railgun systems. The message that went out to the fleet was simple. Humanity has received its first call for help from an alien civilization. We will not let them down. We will show the galaxy what humans can do when we fight for something bigger than ourselves. As the ships gathered at the jump point near Earth, Admiral Yang looked out at the massive fleet. 847 ships, carrying the hopes and fears of an entire species. In 3 months, they would reach the Althari system, the Owen. Question was, would they arrive in time to save a dying civilization? Or would they find only empty space where planets used to be? Yang had a feeling they were about to make history. The only question was what kind of history it would be. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Althari system. What they saw made even the most experienced officers stop and stare. Captain Yoonji Shin was the first to speak. Her scout ship, Swift Arrow, had jumped ahead of the main fleet to assess the situation. Fleet Command, this is Swift Arrow. You need to see this. On every ship's display screen, the Althari system appeared. It should have been a beautiful sight. 7 planets orbiting a yellow star, with space, stations and shipping lanes connecting the worlds. Instead, it looked like a nightmare. The space around the planets was filled with alien ships. Thousands of them. They were unlike anything humans had ever imagined. Dark, twisted things that looked more like living creatures than machines. Some were as large as cities. Others swarmed in groups like angry insects. Dear God, Admiral Yang whispered from his flagship. How many are there? Sensors are counting at least 12,000 enemy vessels, Captain Shin reported. And they're attacking everything. The planets, the space stations, even small civilian ships trying to escape. Dr. Young-Ho Bae, the fleet's top diplomat, was studying the alien ships through the telescopes. Sir, I'm seeing organic components mixed with metal structures. These devourers aren't just machines. They're some kind of biological technology. Are the Althari still fighting? Yang asked. Yes, sir. I'm detecting energy weapon fire from the inner planets, but their fleet is tiny compared to the enemy. Maybe 300 ships left. Yang made his decision. Signal the fleet, battle formation Alpha, we're going in. As the human ships moved toward the battle, they received a transmission from the planet's surface. The alien voice was filled with hope and desperation. Human fleet, this is Counselor Veltar of the Althari Republic. We cannot believe you actually came. We had lost hope. Dr. Bae activated the translation system. Counselor Veltar, this is Admiral Sunho Yang of the Earth Defense Force. We received your distress call. We're here to help. Admiral, you must understand, these creatures are unlike anything we have ever faced. They adapt to our weapons. They consume our dead and learn from them. They have destroyed 49 worlds now. Only our home world and 2 colonies remain. Tell us about their capabilities, Yang requested. Their ships heal themselves. Their weapons grow stronger as they fight. They do not negotiate or retreat. They simply consume everything and move on. Commander Minho Lee, now serving as Yang's tactical officer, studied the enemy formations. Admiral, they're not using any recognizable battle tactics. They just swarm forward in mass attacks. That might be our advantage, Yang said. Send a message to all ships. Prepare for engagement. Remember, these things have never fought humans before. They don't know what we're capable of. The first battle began when a group of devourer ships detected the human fleet. They turned toward the newcomers like sharks smelling blood. Captain Dayun Ryu, commanding the destroyer Blue Thunder, was in the lead group. Enemy ships closing fast, her weapons officer reported. They're firing some kind of bioplasma weapons. Evasive maneuvers, Ryu ordered, and return fire with railguns. The human ships opened fire and something amazing happened. The railgun rounds, simple pieces of metal fired at incredible speed, punched straight through the devourer ships like they weren't even there. The aliens had developed defenses against energy weapons, but they had never seen anything like kinetic bombardment. Direct hit, the weapons officer shouted. The enemy ship is breaking apart. Target the next one, Ryu ordered. All ships concentrate fire. In minutes, the entire devourer patrol was destroyed. The human fleet hadn't lost a single ship. This is Swift Arrow, Captain Shin reported from the scout ship. The main devourer force is reacting. They're turning toward us. Looks like we got their attention. Yang smiled grimly. Good. Signal all ships. Execute Operation Hammer. Let's show them what human warfare looks like. The human fleet split into 3 groups. One group, led by Admiral Yang, charged straight, at the center of the devourer formation. The second group, under Captain Shin, moved to attack from the left side. The third group, commanded by General Taehyung Lim, positioned themselves to cut off the enemy's retreat path. This is insane, Dr. Bay said, watching the tactical display. We're outnumbered 40-1. Numbers don't always win battles, Yang replied. Tactics do, and humans have been developing tactics for thousands of years. The devourers attacked in their usual manner, a massive swarm rushing forward to overwhelm the enemy. But the humans didn't fight like the Althari. Instead of trying to match them ship for ship, the human fleet used coordinated movements that the devourers couldn't predict. Captain Shin's group hit the enemy from the side just as Yang's ships engaged them head-on. The devourers found themselves caught in a crossfire, with railgun rounds hitting them from multiple directions. Their ships are adapting, Commander Lee reported. I'm seeing thicker armor forming on the hulls. Switch to explosive rounds, Yang ordered. If they want to make their armor thicker, we'll just hit them harder. The battle raged for 6 hours. The devourers kept adapting their defenses, but the humans kept changing their tactics. When armor-piercing rounds stopped working, they switched to cluster munitions that spread out and hit multiple targets. When the aliens developed point defense systems, the humans started using guided missiles that could dodge and weave. Admiral, Captain Ryu reported, I'm seeing something interesting. These creatures learn by consuming the wreckage of destroyed ships, but they can only learn from technology they understand. Our railguns are so simple they can't figure out how to defend against them. Elegant in their simplicity, Yang said. Sometimes the old ways are the best ways. As the battle continued, more human ships joined the fight. Lieutenant Colonel Minji Oh led a squadron of fighters that swarmed around the larger devourer vessels, like wasps attacking a bear. Her pilots used maneuvers that no sane alien would attempt, diving between enemy ships, using debris as cover, even ramming enemy fighters when their ammunition ran out. These humans fight like madmen, one of the surviving Althari commanders said over the radio. They show no fear of death. We're not madmen, Colonel O replied as she flew her fighter through a gap in a devourer ship. We're just very good at this. By the end of the day, the first major battle was over. The human fleet had destroyed over 2,000 devourer ships while losing only 67 of their own. It was a victory ratio that stunned both allies and enemies. Counselor Veltar's voice came through the communication system, filled with amazement. Admiral Yang, in 3 years of fighting, we never achieved anything like this. How did you do it? Yang looked out at the wreckage floating in space, the remains of ships that had destroyed 49 worlds. Counselor, the Devourers made one mistake. They learned how to fight civilized species. But humans, we've never been completely civilized. We fight dirty when we have to. We use tactics that others find barbaric. And we never, ever give up. Dr. Bay was studying the wreckage through the ship's scanners. Admiral, I'm detecting something disturbing. The destroyed Devourer ships aren't just dying. They're sending information back to the main fleet. They're learning about our weapons and tactics. Let them learn, Yang said. By the time they figure out how to counter our current tactics, we'll have developed new ones. That's what humans do. We adapt faster than our enemies. As the human fleet regrouped and prepared for the next battle, word of their victory spread across the galaxy. Other alien civilizations hiding in the darkness and waiting for the Devourers to find them began to hope for the first time in years. Humanity had arrived, and they were fighting like no one had ever fought before. The question was, would it be enough to stop an enemy that had consumed half the galaxy? The Devourers were about to find out that there was one species in the universe they had never encountered before. A species that had turned warfare into an art form over thousands of years of constant conflict. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when an unstoppable force met an immovable object with railguns. Admiral Yang stood in the war room of his flagship, studying the tactical display. 3 days had passed since the first battle, and the Devourers had learned. Their new ships had thicker armor and better shields. They were adapting to human tactics. They're getting smarter, Commander Lee reported. The latest attacks show they're using our own maneuvers against us. Good, Yang said, surprising everyone in the room. That means they're thinking like us now. And if they're thinking like us, we can predict what they'll do next. Captain Woojin Park, commanding the heavy cruiser Iron Fist, joined the meeting by video link. Admiral, my ship took heavy damage in the last engagement. These new Devourer weapons are cutting through our armor like paper. Then we stop fighting them the way they expect, Yang replied. Commander Lee, initiate Operation Sledgehammer. Dr. Bay looked confused. Sir, what is Operation Sledgehammer? Yang smiled grimly. Something the Devourers have never seen before. We're going to fight them like humans fought wars on ancient Earth. The next morning, the human fleet did something that shocked both allies and enemies. Instead of engaging in traditional space combat, they began moving like ancient naval forces. Ships formed into lines of battle. Fighters arranged themselves like cavalry. The larger vessels took positions like artillery batteries. Commander Seung-Hyun Ko led the first wave. His squadron of destroyers accelerated toward the Devourer fleet at maximum speed, their railguns firing continuously. But instead of trying to destroy individual ships, they aimed for the spaces between enemy vessels. What are they doing? Counselor Veltar asked from the planet's surface. They're not trying to win, Dr. Bay realized. They're trying to break the enemy formation. The railgun rounds didn't just hit Devourer ships. They created debris fields that forced the alien vessels to change course. Ships that had been flying in perfect coordination suddenly found themselves scattered and confused. Now, Yang ordered. Second wave. Captain Da-hyun Ryu led the carrier group forward. Instead of launching fighters to engage enemy ships directly, she deployed thousands of small drones. Each drone carried a single explosive charge and had one mission: ram into enemy ships at high speed. Suicide attacks, Commander Lee said with admiration. The Devourers can't adapt to tactics that don't make sense. The drones swarmed the scattered Devourer ships like angry bees. They were too small and numerous to shoot down, and their pilots were artificial intelligences that didn't fear death. Explosions lit up space as hundreds of drones found their targets. But the real surprise came when General Tae-hyung Lim launched the ground assault. His Marines didn't wait for the space battle to end. Instead, they flew their assault ships directly at the largest Devourer vessels and began boarding operations. Marines are inside enemy ships, Lim reported, beginning close-quarters combat. What happened next was something the Devourers had never experienced. Human soldiers wearing powered armor and carrying weapons designed for one purpose, killing, moved through the alien ships like death incarnate. They didn't try to capture technology or take prisoners. They simply destroyed everything they found. The Devourers are panicking, Captain Shin reported from her scout ship. I've never seen them retreat before, but they're pulling back from the marine boarding operations. That's because they've never fought an enemy that enjoys close combat, General Lim said as he led a charge through a Devourer ship's bridge. These creatures are used to fighting from a distance. They don't know what to do when the enemy gets inside their ships. The battle raged for 18 hours. The humans used every dirty trick they had learned in thousands of years of warfare. They used debris as weapons, ramming Devourer ships with empty fuel tankers. They hid ships behind asteroids and ambushed enemy patrols. They even used the Devourer's own adaptive technology against them by feeding false information to captured ships. Colonel Seonyung Kim, commanding the Orbital Bombardment Group, came up with the most brutal tactic of all. Admiral, I'm seeing Devourer ships trying to land on the planet's surface. They're going to consume the population. Stop them, Yang ordered. Sir, the only way to stop them is to bombard the landing sites. But there are Althari civilians in those areas. Yang was quiet for a long moment. This was the kind of decision that haunted military commanders. Save the few and lose the many, or sacrifice the few to save the many. Counselor Veltar's voice came through the communication system. Admiral, I understand your hesitation, but you must do what is necessary. A few thousand of our people will die, but you will save millions. Confirmed, Yang said quietly. Begin orbital bombardment. Kim's ships opened fire on the planet's surface. The weapons weren't designed to kill civilians. They were designed to create geological instability that would make landing impossible for the Devourer ships. Earthquakes and volcanic eruptions made the surface too dangerous for the alien invaders. Bombardment complete, Kim reported. No Devourer ships on the surface. But the cost was terrible. Entire cities were destroyed. Thousands of innocent Althari died in the bombardment. It was the kind of decision that other species would spend years debating. Humans made it in minutes and lived with the consequences. Admiral, Dr. Bay said quietly, the other alien species are watching this battle. They're seeing how we fight. And what do they see? Yang asked. They see a species that wins at any cost. They see people who will sacrifice their own allies to achieve victory. They're terrified of us. Good, Yang replied. Fear keeps people alive. If they're afraid of us, they'll be very afraid of our enemies. The battle turned when Lieutenant Colonel Minji-Oh made a discovery. Her fighter squadron had been studying the Devourer command ships looking for weaknesses. What she found changed everything. Admiral, these things aren't just ships. They're alive. The whole fleet is connected by some kind of biological network. If we can disrupt that network, the entire fleet becomes confused, Yang finished. Do it. Oh led her squadron on the most dangerous mission of the war. They flew directly at the largest Devourer ship, dodging defensive fire and bioplasma weapons. When they reached the ship's surface, they deployed a new weapon, an electromagnetic pulse bomb designed specifically to disrupt biological systems. The explosion wasn't large, but its effects were immediate. Across the entire Devourer fleet, ships began flying erratically. Some collided with each other, others stopped moving entirely. The network is down, Oh reported as her fighter limped back to the carrier. They're flying blind. Yang didn't waste the opportunity. All ships general attack, destroy everything that moves. For the next 6 hours, the human fleet systematically destroyed the confused Devourer ships. Without their network coordination, the aliens couldn't mount an effective defense. They tried to adapt, but adaptation takes time, and the humans didn't give them any time. When the battle ended, over 8,000 Devourer ships had been destroyed. The human fleet had lost 200 ships, but they had saved the Althari, home world. This is impossible, Counselor Veltar said, his voice filled with awe. In 3 years, we destroyed perhaps 50 of their ships. You destroyed thousands in a single day. We had advantages you didn't have, Yang explained. We fight differently. When other species developed space travel, they left warfare behind. Humans brought warfare with us to the stars. Dr. Bay was monitoring communications from across the galaxy. Admiral, other species are responding to news of the battle. The Kresh Republic wants to join our alliance. The Vortani Assembly is offering their shipyards. Even the Nexari Collective is asking how they can help. Why now? Yang asked. Because, for the first time since the Devourers appeared, someone won a real victory against them. These species have been hiding for years, waiting for someone else to solve the problem. Now they see that someone actually can. Commander Lee was studying the tactical data from the battle. Sir, I'm seeing something interesting in the Devourer wreckage. They weren't just adapting to our weapons, they were adapting to our entire way of thinking. But our tactics changed so fast they couldn't keep up. That's the key, Yang said. Other species fight the same way every time. They have honor codes and rules of engagement. Humans change tactics based on what works. We don't fight fair, we fight to win. As the human fleet regrouped and prepared for the next phase of the war, Yang received a message from Earth. President Zhang's face appeared on the communication screen. Admiral, the whole galaxy is talking about your victory. You've done something no one thought was possible. You've beaten the Devourers in a direct fight. It's only the beginning, Madam President. We've won one battle, but the war is far from over. There are still thousands of Devourer ships out there. What do you need? More ships, more Marines, more weapons, and permission to take this war to the enemy's home territory. President Zhang nodded. You have everything you need, Admiral, and you have something else. The hopes of every free species in the galaxy. Don't let us down. As the transmission ended, Yang looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the remaining Devourers were regrouping and adapting to human tactics. The next battle would be even harder. But Yang wasn't worried. Humans had been fighting impossible wars for their entire history. They had always found a way to win, no matter the odds. The galaxy was about to learn that there was no problem that couldn't be solved with. The victory at Althari Prime changed everything. Within weeks, species that had been hiding for years began emerging from the shadows. The reptilian Kresh sent a delegation to meet with Admiral Yang. The ethereal Vortani offered their advanced sensor technology. Even the machine logic Nexari, who had never shown interest in biological affairs, requested an alliance with humanity. Admiral Jaewon Seo arrived from Earth with reinforcements and a new mission. He met with Yang in the command center that had been built on Althari Prime's largest moon. The politicians back home are calling you a hero, Seo said as he reviewed the battle reports. But I read between the lines. You're worried, Yang nodded. We won because the Devourers didn't expect us. They won't make that mistake again. Their next attack will be different. Different how? They've had time to study our tactics. They're adapting. And worse, they're learning not just our technology, but our psychology. The next battle won't be against mindless swarm ships. It'll be against an enemy that thinks like us. Dr. Haenul Yoon, a military historian who had arrived with the reinforcements, was studying captured Devourer technology. Admiral, I've been analyzing the wreckage from the battle. These creatures don't just adapt to weapons, they adapt to entire civilizations. They've absorbed the fighting styles of dozens of species. But not humans, Seo said. Not yet. But they're learning. I've found evidence that they've been analyzing our battle communications, our tactical manuals, even our historical databases. They're building a psychological profile of human warfare. Yang felt a chill. Show me. Yoon activated a holographic display. Look at this. They've identified patterns in human military thinking. Our preference for flanking maneuvers. Our tendency to use overwhelming force. Our willingness to sacrifice units for strategic advantage. They're not just learning our weapons. They're learning our minds. That's impossible, Commander Lee protested. How can they understand human psychology? They're aliens. They're very good at learning, Yoon replied. Remember, they've absorbed 49 civilizations. They have experience with dozens of different ways of thinking. Adding human psychology to their database is just another step. The implications were terrifying. If the Devourers could predict human tactics, The advantage of surprise would be lost. The next battle might not go as well as the first. Captain Su-Young Nam had been quiet during the briefing. She commanded the stealth ship Shadow Walker, and her missions took her deep into Devourer territory. Admirals, I have something to report. My last reconnaissance mission found something disturbing. Go ahead, Captain, Yang said. The Devourers are building something. It's massive, larger than anything we've seen before. My ship's sensors couldn't get detailed readings, but it's at least 50 kilometers long. A super weapon? SEO asked. Maybe. Or maybe it's something worse. A new kind of ship designed specifically to fight humans. Yang studied the tactical display. Captain Nam, I need you to get closer. We need to know what they're building. Sir, my ship is fast and stealthy, but getting close enough for detailed scans would be suicide. The area is heavily defended. Then we don't send just your ship, Yang said. We send a fleet. SEO looked at him in surprise. You want to attack their construction site? That's exactly what they'd expect us to do. No. Yang smiled grimly. They'd expect us to attack with overwhelming force, trying to destroy whatever they're building. Instead, we're going to let them capture one of our ships. Sir? Commander Lee looked confused. Yang activated the tactical display. The Devourers learn by absorbing technology and information from destroyed ships. What if we gave them a ship full of false information? What if we made them think they understood human tactics, when actually they were learning the wrong lessons, Doctor? Yoon's eyes widened. A Trojan horse like the ancient Greeks used against Troy. Exactly. Captain Nam, I need you to prepare Shadow Walker for a special mission. We're going to load your ship with fake tactical databases and false information about human strategy. Then we're going to let the Devourers capture it. And me? Nam asked. You and your crew will escape in pods before the capture. The Devourers will think they destroyed the ship and killed everyone aboard. They'll analyze the wreckage and absorb all the false information we planted. The plan was risky, but it was exactly the kind of unconventional thinking that made human tactics so effective. Over the next week, the best minds in the fleet prepared fake databases full of misleading information about human military doctrine. We're telling them that humans always attack from the front, Dr. Yoon explained as he worked on the false data. That we never retreat. That we prefer large-scale battles to small unit tactics. Everything that's the opposite of how we actually fight. Captain Nam's mission launched 3 days later. Shadow Walker approached the Devourer construction site with its stealth systems disabled, making it easy to detect. When the alien ships moved to intercept, Nam and her crew abandoned ship and escape pods that were designed to look like debris. The Devourers captured Shadow Walker exactly as planned. Yang watched through long-range sensors as alien ships surrounded the human vessel and began absorbing its technology and data. They're taking the bait, Captain Shin reported from her scout ship. Multiple Devourer ships are connecting to Shadow Walker. They're downloading everything. Good, Yang said. Let them learn all the wrong lessons. While the Devourers were busy absorbing false information, the real human fleet was preparing for the decisive battle. Reinforcements had arrived from Earth. Another 400 ships, including the new Titan-class battleships that mounted the most powerful railguns ever built. General Taehyung Lim was training his Marines for a new kind of combat. The Devourers think they understand us now, he told his troops. They think they know how humans fight. We're going to show them they're wrong. The Marines were practicing techniques that didn't appear in any official manual: urban warfare, adapted for space combat, guerrilla tactics modified for zero gravity, and psychological warfare designed to break enemy morale. Remember, Lim said, the Devourers are used to fighting civilized enemies. They've never fought anyone who enjoys combat as much as they do. That's our edge. 2 weeks after Captain Nam's mission, the Devourers launched their counterattack. It came exactly as Yang had hoped. They used tactics based on the false information from Shadow Walker. Enemy fleet approaching, Captain Shin reported. They're moving in a direct assault formation just like our fake tactical manual said they should expect. Perfect, Yang said. All ships, execute Plan Chaos. The human fleet scattered in all directions, abandoning the defensive positions that the fake manuals claimed humans always used. Instead of meeting the enemy head-on, they attacked from unexpected angles, using the kind of irregular warfare that had made humans famous throughout their history. The Devourers found themselves fighting an enemy that didn't behave according to their absorbed data. Human ships appeared where they weren't supposed to be, using tactics that the stolen databases said humans never used. Captain Da-Hyun Ryu led the carrier group in a maneuver that would have been impossible for any other species. Her ships dove through the heart of the Devourer formation, launching fighters and bombers at point-blank range before accelerating away at maximum speed. "They're trying to adapt," Commander Lee reported, "but they can't keep up with our tactical changes." "That's because they're thinking like the humans they think they understand," Yang replied. "But they don't understand us at all." The battle was a massacre. The Devourers had prepared for one kind of enemy and found themselves facing another entirely. Their adapted tactics were useless against human forces that refused to fight according to the rules. But the real turning point came when Captain Nam, who had survived her ship's capture, led a boarding party onto the massive Devourer construction. What she found there changed the war. "Admiral," she reported from inside the alien structure, "this isn't a weapon, it's a mind. The Devourers built a central intelligence to coordinate their entire species." "Destroy it," Yang ordered. "Sir, I have a better idea. What if we don't destroy it? What if we capture it?" Yang realized what she was suggesting. "You want to turn their own central intelligence against them." Dr. Yoon says it's possible. The Devourers think in terms of absorption and adaptation. If we can convince their central intelligence that resistance is futile, it might order the entire species to surrender. It was the most audacious plan in military history. Capture the enemy's brain and use it to win the war. But it was exactly the kind of impossible strategy that humans specialized in. The boarding operation was led by General Lim himself. His Marines fought their way through the massive structure, facing Devourer defenders that fought with desperate fury. The corridors ran with alien blood as human soldiers advanced meter by meter toward the central intelligence. "We're at the core," Lim reported. "The central intelligence is trying to communicate." "What's it saying?" Yang asked. Dr. Yoon, who was monitoring the translations, looked amazed. "It's asking how we learned to fight so effectively. It says it has absorbed the knowledge of 49 civilizations, but none of them fought like humans." "Tell it the truth," Yang said. "Tell it that why." The surrender of the Devourer fleet created a problem no one had expected. Across the galaxy, millions of alien ships suddenly stopped fighting and waited for orders from their enemies. What do you do with an enemy that had consumed 49 civilizations? Admiral Yang stood in the command center on Althari Prime, staring at reports from across known space. Every major species had sent representatives to witness humanity's decision. The Althari wanted revenge. The Kresh demanded justice. The Vortani called for mercy. "Admiral," President Jiang said through the communication link from Earth, "the entire galaxy is watching. Whatever we decide here will determine how other species see humanity for generations." "I understand, Madam President. But this isn't just about politics. We have to decide what kind of species we want to be." Dr. Hanil Yoon had been studying the captured Devourer intelligence for weeks, his reports made for disturbing reading. "Admiral, I've learned more about their history. The Devourers weren't always like this. They started as a peaceful species much like the others. But they were attacked by an enemy they couldn't defeat. Their only choice was to adapt or die. So they became monsters to survive," Yang said. "Yes. And once they started consuming other civilizations, they couldn't stop. Each new species they absorbed made them more powerful, but also less like their original selves." Commander Lee looked up from his tactical station. "Sir, we're receiving multiple requests from alien governments. They all want the same thing: complete extermination of the Devourer species." Yang wasn't surprised. For years, the Devourers had been the nightmare that haunted every peaceful civilization. Now that they were helpless, those same civilizations wanted revenge. General Taehyung Lim joined the meeting from his flagship. "Admiral, My Marines are reporting something interesting from the Devourer ships we've boarded. The original species, the ones who became the first Devourers, they're still in there. Buried under layers of absorbed consciousness, but still present. What are you saying? I'm saying that maybe the Devourers aren't completely evil. Maybe they're just lost. The debate raged for days. The alien representatives demanded justice for 49 destroyed civilizations. The human military advisors pointed out the strategic advantage of keeping Devourer technology. The diplomats worried about setting a precedent for how to treat defeated enemies. But the decision came down to one person, Admiral Yang, as the supreme commander of the victorious fleet. He called a meeting of all the major species. Representatives from dozens of worlds gathered in the great assembly hall that had been built in orbit around Althari Prime. The room was filled with creatures of every imaginable shape and size, all united by their hatred of the Devourers. Ladies, gentlemen, and honored beings, Yang began, we gather here to decide the fate of our defeated enemy. Some of you call for revenge, others demand justice. A few even suggest mercy. Counselor Veltar of the Althari spoke first. Admiral Yang, the Devourers destroyed our worlds and killed billions of our people. They deserve to die for their crimes. Commander Thaklon of the Kresh nodded agreement. They are a disease that must be cut out before it spreads again. But Premier Silandra of the Vortani disagreed. Violence only leads to more violence. If we destroy the Devourers, how are we different from them? Yang listened to the arguments for hours. Finally, he stood up. I've heard your positions. Now let me tell you about humans. The room went quiet. Everyone knew that humanity's decision would be final. My species has fought wars for thousands of years, Yang continued. We've made every mistake that intelligent beings can make. We've committed genocide. We've enslaved entire populations. We've destroyed civilizations for resources and territory. We know what it means to be monsters. But we also learned something else. We learned that sometimes the only way to stop evil is with overwhelming force. Not because we enjoy violence, but because we understand that some enemies cannot be reasoned with or reformed. Yang activated the holographic display, showing the Devourer fleet scattered across dozens of systems. The Devourers consumed 49 civilizations. Trillions of beings died because of their actions. If we let them live, what message does that send to the next species that decides conquest is easier than cooperation? Premier Silandra stood up. Admiral, surely you don't mean to execute an entire species? I mean exactly that, Yang replied, quietly. The Devourers made their choice when they began consuming other civilizations. They chose to survive by making others extinct. Now they face extinction themselves. The room erupted in arguments. Some species supported Yang's decision. Others were horrified by it. But Yang raised his hand for silence. This is not a decision I make lightly. Every human who participated in this war will carry the weight of it for the rest of their lives. But we didn't come here to be liked. We came here to solve a problem that no one else could solve. Captain Woojin Park had been leading the deep strike teams that were systematically dismantling Devourer infrastructure across the galaxy. His ships were destroying not just military targets, but the very foundations of Devourer civilization, their manufacturing centers, their resource extraction facilities, their breeding grounds. Admiral, Park reported, Operation Final Cut is proceeding on schedule. We've eliminated Devourer capabilities in 12 systems. They can no longer reproduce or build new ships. Colonel Seon-Young Kim was coordinating the orbital bombardments that reduced Devourer worlds to lifeless rock. Sir, the enemy home system is secure. All military resistance has been eliminated. But the most difficult task fell to General Lim and his Marines. They had to board the Devourer ships and facilities where the alien intelligence still lived, and shut down the biological systems that kept the species alive. This is the hardest thing I've ever had to order my troops to do, Lim told Yang privately. They're not fighting an enemy in battle, they're executing prisoners. I know, Yang replied. But if we don't finish this, someone else will have to do it later, and they might not have our restraint. The systematic elimination of the devourer species took 3 months. It was carried out with military precision and no unnecessary cruelty. When it was over, the galaxy's most dangerous predator was extinct. The other species watched in stunned silence as humanity demonstrated what total war really meant. They had expected the humans to be satisfied with victory. Instead, they witnessed complete annihilation of an enemy threat. "Admiral," Dr. Yoon said, as the final reports came in. "It's done. The devourer species no longer exists." Yang nodded, solemnly. "What about their absorbed knowledge, the civilizations they consumed?" "We've managed to extract some of it from their central intelligence, fragments of culture, art, and science from the 49 destroyed civilizations. It's not much, but it's something." In the aftermath, the surviving civilizations formed what they called the Terran Protectorate. Humanity became the undisputed military power of the galaxy, not through conquest, but through the simple fact that no one else could match their effectiveness in warfare. President Zhang addressed the galaxy from Earth in a speech that would be remembered for centuries. Humanity did not seek the role of galactic protector. We answered a call for help from people we had never met, against an enemy we had never faced. We did what was necessary, not what was popular. Some of you will remember us as saviors. Others will remember us as destroyers. Both views are correct. We saved 43 civilizations from extinction, but we also eliminated one. History will judge whether our actions were right or wrong. But I can promise you this: as long as humanity exists, no species will face extinction alone. When civilizations cry out in their darkest hour, Earth will answer. And may whatever gods you believe in help anyone who threatens the innocent under our protection. Admiral Yang, now promoted to Supreme Commander of Galactic Defense Forces, established his headquarters on Althari Prime. The symbolism was intentional. Humanity would base its operations on the world they had saved, not on Earth where they might be tempted by isolationism. 2 years after the end of the Devourer War, Yang received a message that changed everything again. It came from far beyond the edge of known space, from the Andromeda Galaxy. "Commander Yang," the alien voice said through the translation system, "this is the hegemony of Andromeda. We have been monitoring your conflict with the species you call Devourers. We are impressed by your military capabilities." Yang felt his blood run cold. "We're listening. We are coming to your galaxy. We have been expanding our territory for 1,000 years, and your galaxy is next. We wanted to inform you of our arrival as a courtesy, since you are clearly the dominant military power in this region. How long until you arrive? Our advanced fleets will reach your outer systems in 5 years. Our main invasion force will follow within 10 years. We suggest you use this time to prepare your defenses, though we doubt they will be effective against our capabilities." The message ended, leaving Yang staring out at the stars. Another threat. Another enemy. Another impossible war to fight. But as he looked around his command center at the faces of humans and aliens working together, Yang felt something he hadn't expected. Hope. "Signal all fleets," he ordered. "Begin preparations for Operation Deep Strike. It looks like we're going to Andromeda," Captain Jinwoo Park,